Alexander Scott walked into his house 43 miles from Manhattan, 2 hours earlier than usual. The place was silent. He called out. No answer. Then he heard something, faint, coming from outside. He moved toward the back of the house, pushed open the garden door, and froze. What he saw stopped his heart. His sons were standing, Oscar and Oliver, 6 years old. They couldn't walk. Everyone knew that. The doctors had said it. The specialists confirmed it. Years of trying, years of failing. But somehow, right now, they were standing. And she was there. The maid, Lillian, the woman he'd barely looked at when he hired her 3 weeks ago. She was on her knees in front of them, arms open, eyes locked on theirs. Hold on, boys, just a little longer. Her voice was soft, but it carried something Alexander hadn't felt in 2 years. Hope. His sons were shaking, struggling, but they weren't giving up. You're doing it. Keep going. Alexander's chest tightened. When was the last time he'd seen them fight this hard for anything? When was the last time he'd seen them smile? You did it. They fell into her arms, all 3 of them crying, laughing. Then Oliver looked up, saw his father. Everything changed. Dad's home. Lillian stood fast. Her face went white. Mr. Scott. What's going on here? His voice was barely steady. She couldn't speak. Oscar stepped between them, small but fierce. Don't be mad at her, Dad. Alexander stared at his son, at the determination in his eyes. The doctors said we'd never walk. Oscar's voice was clear, strong. She says they're wrong. The words pierced him. Oliver spoke quieter, sadder. We didn't tell you because you wouldn't have cared anyway. Silence. Thick, heavy, breaking. Alexander felt something collapse inside him. He dropped to his knees, right there on the grass, in front of his sons. Boys, are you going to send her away? Oscar's voice cracked. Alexander looked at Lillian, at the fear in her eyes, at the love she'd somehow given his children when he'd given them nothing. Go inside, he said softly to the boys. Let me talk to her. They hesitated, then slowly walked away. Before disappearing, Oscar turned back one last time. She's the only one who hasn't given up on us. Alexander and Lillian stood alone. The air felt heavy, like something sacred had just been broken open. Inside, he said quietly. In the library, she sat on the edge of a chair, hands trembling. He couldn't sit, couldn't stand still. How long have you been doing this? 3 weeks, sir. Every day? Every morning, after you leave. He turned to face her. Why? She looked up at him, tears already forming. Because nobody else would. The truth of it hit him like a fist. Where did you learn this? His voice was rough now, breaking. My sister. She couldn't walk either. The doctors said it was impossible. She paused. But I didn't believe them. And? She walks now. Alexander's throat closed. Lillian stood, her voice steady despite the tears. Your boys don't need another doctor, Mr. Scott. They need someone who believes they can. He looked away. I stopped believing. I know. I don't know how to help them. Then let me show you. He turned back to her. This woman, this stranger who'd somehow seen his sons when he'd been blind. Will you teach me? She nodded. Yes. Before we begin, click subscribe, like this video, and tell us where you're watching from. Sometimes God sends miracles through the hands of ordinary people. Let's keep going. The next morning, Alexander did something he hadn't done in 2 years. He stayed home. 6:45. The kitchen was quiet, early light coming through the windows. The coffee maker hummed softly in the corner. Alexander stood at the counter in jeans and a sweater, no suit, no tie, no briefcase waiting by the door. The housekeeper walked in and stopped, stared. Mr. Scott, are you feeling all right? I'm fine, Marie. But you're still here. I know. She didn't ask anything else, just nodded and went about making breakfast. At 7 o'clock, Alexander heard small footsteps on the stairs, the familiar sound of crutches tapping against wood. Oscar appeared first, then Oliver right behind him. They saw their father and froze. Dad? Oscar's voice was unsure, confused. Why are you still home? Did something happen? Oliver looked worried now. Alexander set down his coffee, walked over to them, knelt down so he was eye level. Nothing's wrong. I just wanted to have breakfast with you. The boys looked at each other, like they didn't quite believe it. But you always leave early, Oscar said. Not today. Oliver's face lit up slowly, like the sun coming out from behind clouds. Really? Really? They moved to the table, slowly, carefully. Alexander pulled out their chairs, helped them settle in. Marie brought plates, scrambled eggs, toast, juice. For the first time in months, Alexander ate breakfast with his sons. Really ate with them, not checking his phone, not reading reports, not halfway out the door already. What are you drawing in art class? He asked Oscar. Oscar blinked, surprised. A dinosaur, a T-Rex. That's your favorite, right? You remember? Alexander's chest tightened. Of course I remember. Oliver jumped in. I'm drawing a spaceship. Miss Lillian says maybe one day I'll build a real one. Miss Lillian says a lot of things, Alexander said quietly. She believes in us, Oscar said. Simple, honest, true. The words hung there. At 7:30, the service door opened. Lillian walked in carrying her bag, hair pulled back, simple dress, ready for another day of work. She saw Alexander sitting at the table with the boys and stopped cold. Mr. Scott. Good morning, Lillian. She looked confused, nervous. I didn't know you'd still be here. I wanted to watch. Watch? The practice, with the boys. You said you'd teach me. Her eyes went wide. You meant, now? This morning? Is that a problem? No, sir. She looked at Oscar and Oliver. They were grinning, bouncing in their seats as much as they could. Dad's going to practice with us, Oliver announced. Lillian's face softened. Well then, let's not waste any time. They went out to the garden together. The morning was cool, dew still on the grass, birds singing somewhere in the trees. Lillian spread out 2 yoga mats on the stone patio, soft ones, bright blue. We always start with stretching, she explained to Alexander. Warms up the muscles, gets the blood moving. Oscar and Oliver sat down without being asked. They knew the routine. Lillian knelt beside them, gentle, patient. Okay, warriors, hamstrings first. She guided them through each stretch, slow, careful, talking the whole time. Not like a therapist, like a friend. Alexander watched, really watched. The way she touched their legs, firm but kind. The way she counted out loud so they knew when to stop. The way she made them laugh even when it hurt. Good, Oscar. Feel that pull? That's your muscle waking up. It's yawning, Oscar giggled. Exactly. Now let's wake up the other one. After 10 minutes of stretching, Lillian stood. All right, today we're trying something new. The boys looked at her, curious, excited. She gestured to Alexander. Your dad's going to help. Oliver's face broke into the biggest smile Alexander had seen in years. Lillian positioned Alexander about 6 feet across from her. Then she looked at the boys. Oscar, you stand between me and your dad. Oliver, same thing. We're all going to count together. 35 seconds today. Oscar bit his lip. That's a lot. You did 30 yesterday. You can do 5 more today. What if I fall? Lillian's voice was steady. Sure, then we catch you. But you won't fall. You're stronger than you think. The boys set their crutches aside. Alexander's heart was pounding. He'd seen them stand yesterday. But watching them prepare now, seeing the fear and determination mixed together in their small faces, it was different. This was his son, his boys, fighting for something he'd stopped believing they could have. Ready? Lillian asked. Both boys nodded. Then let's go. 1. They stood, wobbling, arms out for balance. Alexander's hands hovered near Oscar, ready, waiting. 5, 10. Oscar's legs started shaking. His face went red. You're doing great, buddy, Alexander whispered. I'm right here. 15, 20. Oliver was sweating now, but his jaw was set, determined. 25. Lillian's voice lifted. Stronger. Come on, warriors. 10 more seconds. You've got this. 30. Alexander could see every muscle in Oscar's small body fighting, straining, refusing to quit. 33, 34, 35. Both boys held it for one more second, then collapsed forward. Oscar fell into Alexander's arms, Oliver into Lillian's, and everyone was crying. Alexander held his son against his chest, felt Oscar's heart hammering, felt his small body shaking with effort and pride and exhaustion. "You did it," Alexander whispered. His voice broke. "You did it, son. I'm so proud of you." Oscar pulled back, looked up at his father, tears streaming down his face. "Did you see, Dad? Did you see me? I saw you. I saw everything." Oliver crawled over, wrapped his arms around both of them. And, for the first time since Catherine died, Alexander felt something he thought was gone forever. Hope. After the boys went inside to shower, Alexander and Lillian stood alone on the patio. The sun was higher now, warming everything. "That's what you do every morning?" he asked. "Every morning. And they're getting stronger. Every day." He turned to face her. "I don't want you cleaning houses anymore, Lillian." She looked startled. "Sir?" "I want you focused on Oscar and Oliver. Full-time, nothing else. I'll triple your salary." "Mr. Scott, I can't." "Yes, you can." His voice was firm. "You're not just helping them walk, you're giving them something to fight for, something to believe in." He paused. "And I'm going to be here every morning too." Her eyes filled with tears. "You mean that?" "I've been building their future while forgetting to be part of their present. That ends today." Lillian smiled through her tears. "They're going to be so happy." "So am I." For the first time in 2 years, Alexander Scott meant it. 6 weeks passed. The mansion that had felt like a tomb slowly came back to life. Every morning at 7, Alexander was in the kitchen, coffee brewing, breakfast on the table, waiting for his sons. Every morning at 7:30, they went to the garden together. Him, Lillian, Oscar, and Oliver. And every day, the boys got stronger. 35 seconds became 40, then 50, then a full minute. One morning, Oscar took his first step without crutches. Just one, wobbly, terrified, but real. He fell forward into Lillian's arms and sobbed, not from pain, from joy. 2 weeks later, Oliver did the same. Then 2 steps, then 3. Alexander watched it all. Every trembling attempt, every small victory, every moment of courage his sons showed that he'd almost missed forever. He started working from home 3 days a week, moved his office to the library so he could hear the boys playing in the next room. On weekends, he didn't open his laptop once. Instead, he sat on the floor with Oscar and Oliver, built towers with blocks, read stories, listened to them talk about everything and nothing. He learned that Oscar wanted to be a paleontologist, that Oliver was scared of thunderstorms but wouldn't admit it, that they both still talked to their mother sometimes before bed. Things he should have known all along. The household staff noticed the change, whispered about it. Mr. Scott was different, softer, present. Marie told the gardener she'd seen him laugh, actually laugh, for the first time since Mrs. Scott passed. And at the center of it all was Lillian. She wasn't just a maid anymore. She ate dinner with them most nights, joined their movie nights, became part of the rhythm of their days. Alexander noticed things about her he'd been too blind to see before. The way she hummed while she worked, how she always made sure the boys' favorite snacks were stocked, the small Bible she kept in her bag and read during lunch breaks. One Saturday afternoon, he found her in the garden alone, sitting on the bench under the oak tree, book in her lap, eyes closed, lips moving silently. He almost turned away, didn't want to interrupt. But something stopped him. He walked over, sat down beside her. She opened her eyes, startled. "I'm sorry," he said. "I didn't mean to disturb you." "You're not." She closed the book gently. "Just praying." "For anything in particular?" She smiled, small, sad. "My mama, back in Memphis. She works nights cleaning offices, comes home exhausted every morning. I send money when I can, but it's never enough." Alexander's chest tightened. "How long has she been doing that?" 20 years, since my daddy left." "And your sister, Shanice?" "She's doing good, Works part-time at a bookstore, but her medical bills. Lillian's voice trailed off. Some months are harder than others. Silence settled between them. Alexander looked out at the garden, at the place where his sons had learned to stand again, where his life had changed. All because of this woman sitting beside him. "You've given my family everything," he said quietly, "and you've asked for nothing in return. I didn't do it for anything in return." "I know. That's what makes it so rare." Lillian looked at him, really looked at him. "Your boys needed someone to believe in them, Mr. Scott, but so did you." The words landed soft. "True. I stopped believing in a lot of things when Catherine died," he admitted. "God, hope, the idea that anything good could happen again. And now?" He thought about Oscar's first step, about Oliver's laughter, about mornings in the garden and evenings on the floor building block towers. "Now I'm starting to remember what it feels like." Lillian's eyes filled with tears. "That's all grace is, remembering you're still alive, still here, still capable of more than just surviving." They sat in the quiet, the sun filtering through the leaves above them, birds singing somewhere close. "Lillian?" "Yes?" "Thank you for not giving up on us." She smiled, reached over and squeezed his hand once, brief, gentle. "You're worth fighting for, all three of you." When she stood and walked back toward the house, Alexander stayed on the bench, his hand still warm where she'd touched it. And for the first time in 2 years, he felt something stirring in his chest that he thought had died with Catherine. Not just gratitude, something deeper, something he wasn't ready to name yet. But it was there, growing, like hope. Tuesday afternoon, 3 months into their new routine. Alexander was in the library working on quarterly reports when Marie knocked on the door. "Mr. Scott, there's a visitor, a Mrs. Worthington. She says it's urgent." Alexander frowned. The name sounded familiar. Someone from Catherine's charity circles, maybe. "Send her in." The woman who entered wore a designer suit and carried herself like she owned every room she walked into. Late 40s, perfectly styled hair, cold smile. "Mr. Scott, thank you for seeing me without an appointment." "Mrs. Worthington, what can I do for you?" She sat without being invited. "I'll be direct. I'm here about your employee, Lillian Grant." Alexander's entire body went still. "What about her?" "My daughter Claire is 8 years old. She has spina bifida. We've spent hundreds of thousands on specialists, therapists, equipment. Nothing has helped." She paused. "Then I heard about your sons, about the progress they've made. Remarkable progress. What do you want?" "I want to hire Miss Grant, full-time, 180,000 a year, full benefits, housing on our estate, and we'll cover all medical expenses for her family in Memphis." The words hit like stones. "Lillian isn't available. Mr. Scott, we've done our research. We know about her mother, about her sister's ongoing medical needs, the debt they're carrying. Mrs. Worthington leaned forward. "We're offering her financial security she'll never have working here. Can you really expect her to choose your family over her own?" Alexander's jaw tightened. "I think you should leave. Think about it from her perspective. She has responsibilities, people depending on her." The woman stood. "I've already extended the offer to Miss Grant directly. She has until Friday to decide." She left her card on the desk and walked out. Alexander sat frozen. Lillian already knew. That evening, he found her in the kitchen after dinner, alone, washing dishes with her back to him. "Lillian." She turned. Her eyes were red. She'd been crying. "You talked to Mrs. Worthington," he said. "This morning, before I came to work." Her voice was barely above a whisper. "And?" "I told her I needed time to think." Alexander's chest felt like it was caving in. "That's a lot of money." "I know. Your family needs it." "I know that too." Silence stretched between them, heavy, suffocating. "My mama called me last night," Lillian said quietly. "She fell at work, hurt her back. Can't afford to miss shifts, but can't afford the doctor either." Tears spilled down her cheeks. Shanice's insurance dropped her physical therapy. Says it's not medically necessary anymore, but she needs it. She needs it to keep walking. Alexander wanted to say something, anything, but the words stuck in his throat. "That money could change their lives," Lillian continued, could give them everything they've never had, security, rest, hope. Then you should take it. She looked at him, really looked at him. But what about Oscar and Oliver? We'll find another therapist. You don't mean that. He didn't. But what else could he say? Lillian, I can't ask you to choose us over your own family. That wouldn't be fair. Nothing about this is fair. Her voice broke. I came here broken, running from a life that had beaten me down. Your boys gave me purpose again. This family gave me joy. And now I have to choose between the people who need me to survive and the people who make me feel alive. Alexander crossed the room, stood in front of her, close enough to see the tears on her face, the pain in her eyes. What do you want? He asked softly. I want my mama to stop working herself to death. I want my sister to keep walking. I want to stay here and watch Oscar and Oliver grow strong. She wiped her eyes. I want things I can't have. Lillian, I have until Friday to decide. She looked up at him. I don't know what to do. Alexander's hands hung at his sides. Useless. He wanted to reach for her, to promise her everything would be okay. But he couldn't, because he didn't know if it would be. That night, after Lillian had gone home, Alexander sat in Oscar's room, watched his son sleep, small body curled under the blankets, crutches leaning against the wall. But not for much longer. In a few more months, maybe he wouldn't need them at all. Because of her. Oliver appeared in the doorway, rubbing his eyes. Dad, why are you still awake? Just thinking, buddy. About what? Alexander patted the bed. Oliver climbed up beside him. What would you do if Miss Lillian had to leave? Oliver's face crumpled. Is she leaving? I don't know. But she can't. She's ours. The simple truth of it broke Alexander's heart. Someone else needs her too, Oliver. Her family. And they need her very much. We need her too. Oliver's voice was fierce. Small but fierce. We need her, Dad. Don't let her go. Alexander pulled his son close. I don't know if I can stop her. Then we have to show her. Oliver looked up at him. We have to show her we love her. The word hung in the air. Love. Alexander realized with sudden, crushing clarity that his son was right. Somewhere between that first afternoon in the garden and now, Lillian had become more than an employee, more than a therapist. She'd become family, and he was about to lose her. Wednesday morning came too soon. Alexander was already in the kitchen when Lillian arrived. She looked tired, like she hadn't slept. Morning, she said softly. Morning. They didn't say anything else. The boys came down, excited as always, talking over each other about a dream Oliver had. But the adults were quiet. In the garden, they went through the routine, stretches, balance exercises, standing practice. Oscar made it to 45 seconds, a new record. Everyone clapped, but the joy felt hollow, forced. Oliver noticed first. Miss Lillian, are you okay? I'm fine, sweetheart. You look sad. She knelt down, touched his face gently. Just tired, that's all. But Oliver wasn't convinced. Neither was Oscar. After practice, the boys went inside to get ready for their online classes. Alexander and Lillian stayed in the garden. The silence between them was heavy. 2 more days, she said finally. I know. I still don't know what to do. Alexander looked at her, saw the exhaustion, the weight she was carrying. What does your heart say? My heart says stay, her voice cracked, but my heart isn't paying my mama's bills. He wanted to fix it, wanted to write a check big enough to make the problem disappear. But money wasn't the answer, not this time. Have you prayed about it? He asked. She looked surprised. You're asking me that? You said once that God works through people. Maybe he's working through this too. Maybe he's telling me to go, to take care of my family. Tears filled her eyes. Maybe staying here is selfish. Or maybe he brought you here for a reason, and it's not finished yet. Lillian shook her head. I can't ask my family to keep suffering while I stay here living comfortably. What if there was another way? There isn't. They stood in the quiet, the morning sun warm on their faces, birds singing somewhere in the trees. Alexander wanted to say more, wanted to tell her she belonged here, that losing her would break something in this family that was just starting to heal, that it would break something in him. But the words wouldn't come. That night, Alexander couldn't sleep. He went downstairs, poured himself a drink, stood by the window looking out at the garden, the place where everything had changed. He thought about Catherine, about the last conversation they'd had before she died. She'd been making breakfast, humming, happy. "You work too much," she'd said, teasing but serious. "I'm building their future. Don't forget to build their present too." He hadn't understood what she meant, not until it was too late. But Lillian had understood. She'd seen what his sons needed, what he needed, and she'd given it freely. Not for money, not for recognition. Because she saw them, really saw them. And somewhere in these last few months, he'd started seeing her too. Not as an employee, not as the maid. As Lillian. The woman who prayed over breakfast, who made his sons laugh, who believed in miracles when everyone else had stopped. The woman who'd brought his family back to life. He set down his glass, walked to his office, turned on the computer. If there was another way, he was going to find it. Thursday morning, one day left. Lillian came to work with her decision, written all over her face. She'd chosen to leave. Alexander saw it the moment she walked in, the resignation in her eyes, the way she held herself, braced for impact. "Can we talk?" he asked before she could say anything. "Mr. Scott, I need to tell you. Please, just give me 5 minutes." She followed him to the library. He handed her a folder. "What's this?" "Open it." She did. Her hands started shaking as she read. "I don't understand. 200,000 a year. Full benefits. Your mother and Shanice move here. Into the guest house. All medical expenses covered. Your mother can retire. Shanice gets the best physical therapy in the state." Lillian's tears fell onto the papers. "Mr. Scott, I can't. And I'm funding your education. Yale has a physical therapy program. You'll study while working with Oscar and Oliver. When you graduate, you'll be certified. Officially." She looked up at him. "Why would you do this?" "Because you're not just staff, Lillian." His voice was rough, raw. "You're family, and I don't want to lose you." The silence stretched. She stared at the papers, at the future he was offering, at everything she'd prayed for but never expected. "I don't know what to say." "Say yes." She looked at him, really looked at him, saw something in his eyes that made her breath catch. "This is too much. It's not enough. Not for what you've given us. I didn't do it for this." "I know. That's exactly why I'm offering it." Lillian wiped her eyes, hands still shaking. "My mama, she won't believe it." "Call her. Tell her to start packing." A sob broke from her chest. Relief and disbelief and gratitude all tangled together. "Thank you. Thank you." Alexander wanted to say more, wanted to tell her the truth that was becoming clearer every day. That somewhere between that first afternoon and now, she'd become more than the person who saved his sons. She'd become the person who saved him. But not yet. Not now. So he just smiled. "Welcome to the family, Lillian." 2 weeks later, Lillian's mother and sister arrived. Dorothy Grant was a small woman with tired eyes and gentle hands. She cried when she saw the guest house, cried harder when Alexander told her she'd never have to work another night shift again. Shanice was quiet, watchful. She walked with a slight limp, but with her head high, proud of every step. The boys fell in love with them instantly. Oscar showed Shanice his dinosaur drawings. Oliver taught Dorothy his favorite card game. The guest house that had sat empty for years suddenly filled with laughter and life. Alexander watched from the main house, saw Lillian with her family, the way her whole face changed, lighter, freer, like she could finally breathe. 3 months passed. Oscar took his first unassisted steps, 5 of them, across the living room into his father's arms. Alexander held him and wept. 2 weeks later, Oliver did the same, 7 steps, wobbly but determined. The physical therapist who came for their monthly evaluation stood speechless. This is impossible. According to every projection, they shouldn't be walking independently for another year. Maybe your projections were wrong, Alexander said quietly. The therapist looked at Lillian. What did you do? I just believed in them. One Saturday evening in October, Alexander found Lillian alone on the back patio. The boys were inside watching a movie with Dorothy and Shanice. The air was cool, autumn leaves falling slow and golden. She was standing at the railing, looking out at the garden where it all began. "Mind if I join you?" he asked. She turned, smiled. "Please." They stood side by side in the quiet, the sky turning pink and orange above them. "Your mother looks happy," Alexander said. "She is. I've never seen her this rested, this peaceful." Lillian's voice was soft. "She keeps saying it's a miracle." "Maybe it is." "I know it is." She paused. "All of this, everything that's happened, it's more than I ever prayed for." Alexander looked at her, at the profile of her face in the fading light, the way the breeze moved her hair. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "That day in the garden, when I first saw you with the boys, why were you so afraid?" She turned to face him. "Because I thought you'd fire me." "Why would I do that?" "Because I overstepped, did something I wasn't hired to do, something I had no right to do." Her voice grew quieter, but I couldn't help it. "I looked at Oscar and Oliver, and I saw my sister. I saw two beautiful boys who'd been told they weren't enough, and I couldn't just stand by and accept it. You saw them when I couldn't. You were grieving. I was hiding. The admission came out raw, from them, from myself, from everything I'd lost." He turned to face her fully now. "And then you came. And you didn't just help my sons walk, Lillian. You helped me find my way back to them." Tears shimmered in her eyes. "That's all I wanted, for them to have their father back. You gave me more than that." His voice dropped, barely above a whisper. "You gave me hope again. You made me believe good things could still happen, that God hadn't forgotten us." The space between them felt charged, sacred. "Mr. Scott." "Alexander, please, just Alexander." She smiled through her tears. "Alexander." He wanted to say more, wanted to tell her that somewhere in these last few months, gratitude had turned into something deeper, that he thought about her all the time, that watching her with his sons made his chest ache in ways he didn't understand, that he was falling for her, but the words felt too big, too soon, too complicated. So he just stood there, close enough to feel her warmth, far enough to keep himself safe. "Thank you," he said finally, "for everything. You don't have to keep thanking me. I know, but I want to." They stood in the quiet, the sky darkening, stars beginning to appear. Inside, they could hear the boys laughing, Dorothy's voice joining in, Shanice saying something that made everyone giggle. The sounds of family. "I should go help with bedtime," Lillian said softly. "Lillian?" She turned back. "I'm glad you stayed." Her smile was gentle, knowing, like she could see right through him. "Me too." She went inside. Alexander stayed on the patio, hands gripping the railing, his heart beating harder than it should. Because he knew the truth now, couldn't deny it anymore. He wasn't just grateful. He was in love with her, and he had no idea what to do about it. The invitation came in November. Connecticut Children's Hospital Annual Charity Gala. Black tie, 500 guests. The kind of event Alexander used to attend alone, write a check, leave early. This year was different. "I want you to come," he told Lillian one afternoon. She looked up from helping Oliver with his homework. "To what?" "The gala. Next Saturday." Her face changed, uncertain. "Mr. Scott." "Alexander." "Alexander, that's not. I don't belong at something like that. You belong anywhere I say you belong. You're part of this family. People will talk. Let them." But Lillian's eyes said she knew what he didn't want to admit. That the world he came from wouldn't understand, wouldn't accept, would judge. Saturday night arrived too fast. Lillian wore a simple navy dress, nothing flashy, but she looked beautiful. Dorothy fixed her hair. Shanice told her she looked like a princess. The boys wore little suits. Oscar's tie was crooked. Oliver kept trying to spin and almost fell. Alexander steadied him. "Easy, buddy. Are we really going to a fancy party?" "We really are." "All of us?" "All of us." In the car, Lillian was quiet, hands folded in her lap, nervous. Alexander wanted to reach over, take her hand, tell her everything would be fine. But he wasn't sure it would be. The Fairfield Museum glittered with lights and wealth. Men in tuxedos, women in gowns that cost more than most people made in a year, champagne, string quartet, everything polished and perfect. Alexander walked in with his sons on either side, Lillian behind them with Dorothy and Shanice. The whispers started immediately. People turning, staring, judging. Alexander felt Lillian tense beside him. "It's okay," he said quietly. "They're looking at us. Let them look." But it wasn't okay. He could see it in her eyes, the way she wanted to disappear. They found their table, sat down. The boys were excited, looking around wide-eyed. Dorothy smiled gently. Shanice held Lillian's hand under the table. Then Victoria Worthington appeared, the woman who'd tried to hire Lillian away. She stood at the table with 3 other women, all of them looking down like they'd found something distasteful. "Alexander, how progressive of you. Mrs. Worthington, bringing the entire staff to such a formal event. How generous." Lillian's face went pale. Alexander's jaw tightened. "Lillian is not staff. She's family." "Of course." The woman's smile was cold. "Still, there are certain standards, appearances, to maintain." One of the other women leaned in, voice loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "One must be careful about confusing charity with, well, you understand." Alexander felt rage building in his chest. Hot, dangerous. But before he could speak, a man approached. Richard Hartford, board member at Scott Financial Group. "Scott, a word?" Alexander stood, followed him a few feet away. "What are you doing?" Hartford's voice was low, sharp. "Excuse me?" "Bringing her here, that woman, and her family. Do you have any idea how this looks?" "How? What looks?" "You're a billionaire, a leader in finance. People look to you, and you show up with—" He glanced back at the table. "It raises questions about your judgment, your priorities." Alexander's hands clenched. "You want to finish that sentence?" "I'm trying to protect you, your reputation, your business relationships. This kind of thing gets noticed, gets talked about." "Good, let them talk." "Alexander, are we done here?" He walked back to the table, sat down, saw Lillian's face. She'd heard everything. Tears shimmered in her eyes. She stood suddenly. "Excuse me." She walked toward the restrooms. Fast. Dorothy looked at Alexander, disappointment in her eyes. She didn't want to come. She knew this would happen. Alexander found Lillian outside, on a small balcony overlooking the gardens. She was crying, trying to hide it, wiping her face quickly when she heard him approach. "I'm sorry," she said. "I shouldn't have come. I knew I shouldn't have come." "Lillian, they're right. I don't belong here. This is your world, not mine." Her voice broke. "I'm just the maid who got lucky." "Don't say that." "Why not? It's what they're thinking, what they're all thinking." She turned to face him. "You heard him. Your business partner. He's worried about your reputation, about how it looks." "I don't care how it looks." "But you should. These are your people, your life, your world." Tears streamed down her face. "I'm grateful for everything you've done for me, for my family. But I can't. I can't be the reason people look at you differently, judge you, question you." Alexander stepped closer. "You want to know what I see when I look at you?" She shook her head. "Don't. I see the woman who saved my sons, who gave them hope when everyone else had given up, who brought light back into a house that had been dark for 2 years. His voice was rough, breaking. "I see someone who believes in miracles, who fights for the people she loves, who sees value where others see nothing. Alexander, I see the most beautiful person I've ever known." The words hung in the air. Lillian's breath caught. "You don't mean that." "I do. I've been trying not to say it, trying to keep it professional, trying to convince myself it was just gratitude." He moved closer. "But it's not. It hasn't been for a long time. We can't do this." "Why not?" "Because of everything. The boys, your world, my family, because I work for you, because people will say—" "I don't care what people say." She looked up at him, tears on her face. "You should. The only thing I care about is losing you." The moment stretched, fragile, breakable. Then Lillian stepped back. "I need to go home." "Lillian, please. I can't think here. I can't breathe here." She moved toward the door. "I'm sorry." She walked inside, left him standing alone on the balcony, and Alexander felt something inside him crack wide open, because for the first time in months, he'd told the truth, and it hadn't been enough. Sunday morning, Lillian didn't come to work. Alexander found a text message at 6:30. "Not feeling well. Dorothy will bring the boys for practice." His chest tightened. She was avoiding him. Dorothy arrived with Oscar and Oliver at 7:30. Her face was kind but firm. She knew. "How is she?" Alexander asked quietly. "Hurting. I didn't mean to." "I know what you meant, and so does she. That's what scares her." The boys didn't notice at first. They were excited to show their grandmother their new balance exercises, but halfway through practice, Oliver stopped. "Where's Miss Lillian?" "She's not feeling well today, sweetheart," Dorothy said gently. "Is she coming tomorrow?" "We'll see." Oscar looked at his father, suspicious, knowing. "Did something happen?" "Just grown-up stuff, buddy." "You're sad. She's sad. That's not just stuff." Alexander had no answer. Monday morning. Another text. "Still not well. Need a few days." Tuesday. Nothing. Wednesday. Silence. The boys asked about her constantly. Alexander worked from home, couldn't focus, couldn't think about anything except her face on that balcony, the tears, the fear. "I can't do this." He'd pushed too hard, said too much, ruined everything. Thursday evening, Dorothy knocked on the library door. "May I come in?" "Please." She sat across from him, studied his face. "You love her." It wasn't a question. Alexander didn't deny it. "Yes." "Does she know?" "She knows." And it terrified her. He looked up. "Why?" Dorothy smiled sadly. "Because Lillian spent her whole life feeling invisible, being told she's not enough, not smart enough, not important enough. Just a girl from South Memphis with no degree and no prospects." She paused. "And then you come along, a billionaire, a man who could have anyone, and you tell her she's beautiful, that you care about her, that you need her." I meant every word. "I know you did. That's what scares her most." "I don't understand." "She thinks it's temporary, that one day you'll wake up and realize you could do better, have someone from your world, someone who fits." Dorothy's voice softened. "She's waiting for the other shoe to drop, for you to realize she's not worth it." The words hit him like a blow. How could she think that? Because that's all she's ever been told. Alexander put his head in his hands. "What do I do?" "Give her time, let her breathe, and when she's ready." Dorothy stood. "Show her she's wrong." Friday afternoon, Alexander sat in the garden, alone. The place where it all began, where he'd seen his son standing, where his life had changed. He thought about Catherine, about their wedding vows, about the promises they'd made. She'd told him once, near the end, "Don't stay lonely, Alexander. If something happens to me, don't hide. Find someone who makes you feel alive again." He'd been angry when she said it, told her nothing was going to happen, that they had years ahead of them. But she'd known. Somehow she'd known. "Promise me you won't be alone forever." He hadn't promised. Couldn't imagine loving anyone else. But sitting here now, 6 years later, he realized something. Catherine would have loved Lillian, would have seen what he saw, the kindness, the strength, the gentle faith that moved mountains. She would have wanted this for him, for their sons. A second chance at wholeness. He pulled out his phone, typed a message, deleted it, typed again. Finally, he just wrote the truth. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said what I said, but I can't take it back because it's true. Take all the time you need, but please come back. The boys miss you, and so do I." He hit send before he could second-guess it. 10 minutes passed, 20, an hour. No response. That night, Oscar came into his room, climbed into bed beside him. "Dad?" "Yeah, buddy." "Are you and Miss Lillian fighting?" Alexander's throat tightened. "No, we're not fighting." Then why won't she come back? It's complicated. Do you love her? The question hung in the air. Alexander looked at his son, at the seriousness in his small face. Yes, he said quietly, I do. Did you tell her? I tried. And she got scared? How did you know that? Oscar shrugged. Sometimes when people care about each other a lot, they get scared. That's what Mama used to say. Alexander pulled his son close. You're pretty smart. You know that? Mama said, I got it from you. They sat in the quiet. Father and son. Dad? Yeah? Don't give up on her. She's family now. The simple truth of it broke Alexander's heart. I won't, buddy. I promise. Oscar fell asleep in his arms. But Alexander stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if Lillian was awake too, wondering if she was thinking about him, wondering if she'd ever come back. Saturday morning, Alexander woke to voices downstairs. He came down to find Lillian in the kitchen, making breakfast with the boys, Dorothy and Shanice at the table. She looked up when he entered. Their eyes met. She'd been crying, he could tell, but she was here. Morning, she said softly. Morning. Oscar ran to his father. Dad, Miss Lillian's back. She's making pancakes. Oliver joined in. And she says we can practice extra long today. Alexander looked at her over their heads. Thank you, he mouthed. She nodded, small, uncertain. But she was here, and that was enough. For now. The first few days were careful. Lillian came, did her job, worked with the boys. But there was distance now, a wall that hadn't been there before. She didn't stay for dinner, didn't join movie nights, left as soon as practice ended. Alexander didn't push, just watched, waited, gave her space. But it hurt. The boys noticed too. Why doesn't Miss Lillian eat with us anymore? Oliver asked one night. She's just busy, buddy. She's not busy. She's sad. Alexander had no answer. 2 weeks passed. Then something changed. Wednesday morning, the garden, 7:30. Lillian set up the usual practice area, but she also brought something new. 2 lines of tape on the ground, 20 feet apart. Oscar and Oliver looked at it, confused, excited. What's that for? Oscar asked. Lillian knelt down, looked at both boys. Today's special. Today, you're going to walk. Really walk. From this line to that line. No crutches. Just you. The boys' eyes went wide. But that's really far, Oliver whispered. I know, but you're ready. What if we fall? Then you get back up. That's what warriors do. She looked at Alexander. Your dad will be at the other end, and I'll be right behind you. We've got you. Alexander's heart was pounding. He moved to the far line, knelt down. I'm right here, boys, he called. I'm not going anywhere. Oscar went first. He set his crutches aside, stood, wobbling. Lillian walked behind him, close enough to catch him, far enough to let him try. He took 1 step, then another. His arms stretched out for balance, his face scrunched in concentration. 5 steps, 8, 12. You're doing it, Oscar, Oliver shouted. Keep going. 15 steps, 17. Alexander's vision blurred with tears. His son, his beautiful, brave son, walking. 20 steps. Oscar fell forward into his father's arms, both of them sobbing. I did it, Dad. I really did it. You did. I'm so proud of you. Oliver went next, even more nervous, even more determined. He took the first step, wobbled, steadied himself. Lillian's voice was gentle. You've got this, warrior. 1 step at a time. He made it to step 12 before his legs started shaking. Keep going, Oliver, Oscar called. You can do it. 16 steps. 18. So close. At step 19, he stumbled. But he didn't fall. He caught himself, steadied, took 1 more step. 20. Into Alexander's arms. All of them crying now, all of them holding each other. Lillian stood back, hands over her mouth, tears streaming down her face. And in that moment, Alexander looked at her over his sons' heads, saw the love in her eyes, the pride, the pure, unguarded joy. And he knew. She felt it too. That evening, after the boys went to bed, Alexander found Lillian in the kitchen, cleaning up from dinner. "You don't have to do that anymore," he said gently. "I know, but I like to." He moved closer. "Can we talk?" She set down the dish towel, turned to face him. "About what happened at the gala," he started. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have put you in that position. You didn't do anything wrong. I made you uncomfortable, made you feel like you didn't belong. I made myself feel that way." Her voice was soft. "You were just being honest." Silence stretched between them. "I've been thinking," she said finally, "about what you said that night." His heart stopped. "And I'm scared, Alexander." Her eyes filled with tears. "Scared of what this means, scared of what people will say, scared that one day you'll wake up and realize, I'm just... Don't." He crossed the room, stood in front of her. "Don't finish that sentence." "But it's true. We're from different worlds." "So what? We're in the same world now, the one we built, together." She looked up at him. "What if it's not enough? What if it is?" The air between them felt electric, fragile. "I don't know how to do this," she whispered. "Neither do I, but I know I don't want to do it without you." A tear slipped down her cheek. Alexander reached up, gently wiped it away with his thumb. "Give me a chance, Lillian. Give us a chance. No pressure, no expectations. Just let me show you what I see when I look at you." "And what do you see?" "Home." The word hung in the air. Lillian's breath caught. "I see home," he continued. "Safety, joy, everything I thought I'd lost forever. You brought it all back." His voice broke. "Not just for my sons, for me." More tears fell. "I'm scared," she whispered again. "So am I, but maybe we can be scared together." She smiled through her tears. Small, fragile, real. "Okay. Okay? Let's try. Slowly, carefully." She paused. "But let's try." Relief flooded through him. He wanted to kiss her, wanted to pull her close and never let go. But not yet. Not until she was ready. So he just took her hand, squeezed it gently. "Thank you." She squeezed back. That night, Alexander couldn't sleep. He stood at his window, looking out at the garden lit by moonlight. The place where his life had changed, where his sons had learned to stand, to walk, to believe, where he'd learned to do the same. His phone buzzed. A text from Lillian. "Thank you for waiting for me." He typed back, "I'd wait forever." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, "You won't have to." Alexander smiled, set down his phone, and for the first time in 6 years, he felt something he'd forgotten was possible. Complete. Not because everything was perfect, but because he finally knew what he wanted, and she was just a guest house away. Believing in the same impossible things he was starting to believe in, that broken things could heal, that lost things could be found, that love could bloom in the places grief had burned clean, and that sometimes God sends miracles wearing an apron and carrying hope in their hands. Spring came. 6 months after that first afternoon in the garden, 6 months of morning practices, small victories, healing. Oscar and Oliver walked now, really walked. No crutches, no wobbling, just 2 boys running through the house like any other children. The specialists couldn't explain it, called it remarkable, unprecedented. Alexander called it grace. One Sunday morning, the whole family went to church together. It was Lillian's idea. A small chapel in town, nothing fancy, white walls, wooden pews, sunlight streaming through simple windows. Dorothy and Shanice sat in the front row, the boys between Alexander and Lillian. The pastor spoke about miracles, about faith that moves mountains, about how God works through ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Alexander felt Lillian's hand slip into his. He squeezed gently. She didn't let go. That afternoon, Alexander asked her to meet him in the garden. Same place, same stone patio, where everything had changed. She came wearing a simple white dress, hair down, beautiful. "Why are we out here?" she asked. "I want to show you something." Oscar and Oliver appeared from behind the hedge, grinning. holding a banner they'd made. "We love you, Miss Lillian." Her hands flew to her mouth. The boys ran to her, really ran, fast and free and perfect. She caught them, all three of them laughing and crying. "We made it ourselves," Oscar said proudly. "Dad helped a little," Oliver admitted. "Just a little," Alexander said softly. Lillian looked up at him over the boys' heads, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you, for everything, for believing in them when nobody else would," Alexander finished. "Including me." He moved closer. "Lillian, 6 months ago I came home and found you on your knees in this garden, teaching my sons to stand, and I thought that was the miracle." She wiped her eyes. "But I was wrong. The miracle wasn't them standing. It was you showing up, believing, refusing to accept what everyone else had decided was true." His voice grew thick. "You didn't just teach them to walk. You taught me how to live again." "Alexander." He knelt down, right there on the stone, in front of her and his sons and God and everything. "I'm not asking you to be their therapist, or their caregiver, or even their friend." He pulled out a small box, opened it. "I'm asking you to be my wife, their mother, the heart of this family." The ring was simple, a single band engraved with words, "Faith moves mountains." Lillian's knees buckled. She sank down to the ground with him. "I came here broken," she whispered, "running from a life that told me I was nothing, that I'd never be enough. And now? Now I'm standing in a garden with a man who sees me, really sees me, with 2 boys who taught me what courage looks like, with a family I never thought I'd have." She smiled through her tears. "You didn't just give me a job, Alexander. You gave me a home. Is that a yes?" She laughed, cried, nodded. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." He slipped the ring on her finger. Oscar and Oliver cheered, jumped, ran circles around them. Dorothy and Shanice appeared from the house. They'd been watching, crying. Everyone came together, one big embrace. A family, not born, but chosen, built on faith and patience and the kind of love that refuses to quit. Later that evening, after the celebration, after the phone calls and the tears and the laughter, after the boys were asleep, after Dorothy and Shanice had gone back to the guest house, Alexander and Lillian sat on the garden bench, under the stars. "Do you remember what you said to me that first day?" he asked. "Which part?" "You said the boys didn't need more specialists. They just needed someone who wouldn't give up on them." "I remember. You were right, but it wasn't just them who needed that." He turned to face her. "It was me too. I'd given up, on hope, on joy, on the idea that anything good could happen again. And then you came, and you refused to let me stay there." Lillian rested her head on his shoulder. "God puts people in our lives exactly when we need them. You believe that?" "I know it. I was running from Memphis, broken, scared, no plan, no future, and somehow I ended up here, with you, with them." She lifted her head, looked at him. "That's not coincidence. That's grace." Alexander thought about Catherine, about the promise she'd made him make before she died. Don't stay lonely forever. He finally understood. This wasn't betrayal. This wasn't forgetting. This was honoring her memory by living fully, by loving again, by being the father she'd wanted him to be. "I think Catherine would have loved you," he said quietly. Lillian's eyes filled with tears. "I wish I could have met her. She's here, in Oscar and Oliver, in the way they fight, the way they love, the way they refuse to quit." He paused. "And I think she sent you, to finish what she started, to bring us back to life." They sat in the quiet, the night warm, the stars bright above them. "What happens now?" Lillian asked. "Now, we build a life, together, one day at a time, with 2 boys who walk like warriors, and a God who still does miracles." She smiled. "Even for billionaires who forget how to come home, especially for them." Inside the house, Oscar woke up, thirsty. He walked to the kitchen. No crutches, no struggle, just walked. Got his water, looked out the window, saw his father and Miss Lillian, his mum, now sitting together in the garden. He smiled. Ran back upstairs to tell Oliver. They were going to have a mum again. A real one. One who believed in them, who fought for them, who saw them not as broken, but as beautiful. And somewhere in heaven, their first mom smiled too, because her boys were whole again. Her husband was alive again. And grace had come knocking in the form of a woman from Memphis who knew how to see miracles in unlikely places. Sometimes the greatest wealth isn't found in bank accounts or boardrooms. It's found in mourning practices, in patience, in refusing to accept defeat, in believing that broken things can heal, that lost things can be found, that love blooms in the spaces grief has cleared, and that God still sends angels. Sometimes they wear aprons, sometimes they kneel in gardens, sometimes they teach our children to walk, and in doing so, they teach us to live again.